you check the children? Show a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Bienvenidos, Fright fans! Welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Jaime and Fuego, and so very stoked to be talking about the first major theatrical horror release that has come out here in the new year, 2024, and that is for Blumhouse's Night Swim. And this stars Kerry Condon, Wyatt Russell, and it is directed by Bryce McGuire, and this is his directorial debut. He also wrote the script, and so this is actually based on a short film also entitled Night Swim, from 10 years ago, which I just watched last night after watching the actual theatrical film. And so that short was essentially just kind of a proof of concept, very simple, less than 4 minutes long. You have this woman, she's swimming in a pool, looks up when she's underwater, and is positive that she can see somebody standing on the pool deck. When she jumps up out of the water, nobody is there. Simple concept, but yet creepy and effective. And 10 years later, apparently, yeah, the peeps at Blumhouse, Jason, and everybody at Universal and stuff. Now, keep in mind, this is actually a co-production between Atomic Monster, which is James Wan's company, and Jason Blum's Blumhouse. Now, the two of those have actually officially joined forces, like Megazord status, and they are one joint company now. So I don't know if they're just going to continue using each of their separate monikers, but yet they have converged as one, or I don't know. But yes, so they are officially 100% a singular company now, from what I understand. So yeah, the two of them, James and Jason, they caught wind of this short film, and even though it took a decade for it to actually get in front of the eyes of audiences, here we are. And it's a PG-13 horror film, and so anytime I see PG-13 horror, as I'm giving overall thoughts here on this film, I go in with a tempered expectation in the fact that I hope it's going to push the envelope as far as PG-13 goes, because there are films that have most definitely done it. Last year, The Boogeyman, based on the Stephen King short film, did it. Various others over the course of time, the Insidious films have done it. Something like The Others has done it. What Lies Beneath. I mean, you can have very effective PG-13 horror. It takes a little more subtlety. So it's not going to be the shock and awe of gore and craziness and things of that nature. And so I always also, for that reason, go in with an open mind with PG-13 horror, because of the fact that, it does force, when it's done well, the filmmaker to think outside of the box, be a little bit more creative, and also build tension as opposed to just trying to hit you with an onslaught of sorts. And I will say, the first 2/3 of this film, I really liked. I quite liked, in fact. It was unique. I thought the concept was interesting. Granted, you have the whole, families moving into a house, spooky history, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, the lore that was hinted at, I thought was unique enough, and I hadn't seen something specifically like this explored before. And also, it helps when you have a likable family. Wyatt Russell, as this father who is dealing with multiple sclerosis, he was a professional baseball player at one point, and he is dealing not only with his growing disability and just harrowing, just demoralizing, if I'm going to put it properly, just sort of realization that he's probably never going to play professional sports again, and his life was professional sports, his family secondary. And so now, while there's never any doubt that he loves his family, and even throughout his professional career most definitely did, you can tell that he's almost kind of discovering how to be at home with his family, and it's a very nuanced, for the first 2/3, an interesting performance. And Kerry Condon as his wife, she is supportive, they have genuine chemistry, and even the kids, man, typically a lot of the time in these films I can't stand the damn kids. The sister I was less fond of in this, and she's got this little love subplot with this kid at the new school. I think they're in the Milwaukee area, if I remember correctly, and he's just yeah, be on swim team with me, and, hitting on her right off the bat. I do like that actor, though, and I can't remember what I have seen him in, the dude who recruits her for the swim team because he got a crush on her. I liked him. The little sister who he, has kind of the hots for, not so much, but the son, the youngest in the family, I really dug him, and especially the way that they wrote him as being a character who wants so badly to be like Dad, to be the tough, athletic, no nonsense, have the ability and whatnot, wants to follow in those footsteps, but he's having difficulties. And It's, partially athletic ability. It's also partially just like a confidence thing. And so maybe he does take after his mother a little bit more so in that, in like and not that all women are vulnerable or anything like that, but you can tell that, like, I don't know, that he's very much like a more tender sort of kid. He's not as rough and tough, no nonsense like his sister, and that's mentioned at one particular point in the film that, sister is, much more like the father, and, the mom is like, you're much more like me. And so often that happens when you have dueling siblings, one takes after one parental unit more so, and, the other and vice versa. So the 2/3 of this, as they move into the home and are getting acclimated, great. Unfortunately, as I'm rounding out my overall impression of Night Swim, the third act, the friggin' wheels fall off, man. And the interesting lore that had been set on the table, and especially in the explanation as far as why this pool has this power, which I loved and thought was great. It turns into a hodgepodge of a ton of different things that we've seen before in the third act. I don't want to spoil things though, so that's where it's really tough. But some stuff that happens with Dad, because we'll get into the story a little bit more so here without spoiling stuff. But yeah, it echoes in the third act a lot of things that I have seen before, and it almost like counters its own mythology a little bit at times too with what happens with a few characters. And so I don't know, man. I thought that this was unique and rather interesting and pretty competent and pretty good. I was like, this isn't going to be like Megan from last year in January from Blumhouse as well, but this is really interesting, and I'm liking it, and I'm curious where it's going to go. And that's where I just kind of wonder if this was a short film where they're trying to expand it into a feature, and it becomes difficult because you can only, like, they only had ideas up to a point, and then, Bryce, the writer-director, is just like, well, I'm kind of losing the originality, so I'm just gonna cherry pick from all these other things I've seen before and just mash those all together, and that's how I'm gonna, finish this film up, because that's really the way that I felt about it. So it's always tough when you have a short, I think, to expand into a feature and keep it competent, keep it unique, keep it interesting. And that's unfortunately what makes this film wait at least until it's on home release to check out. Cecil even asked me, he's like, hey man, should I actually go and see this? What do you think? And I was like, I mean, maybe you might find the redeeming qualities. I know some of our contemporaries and fellow critics are like slogging this film. I'm not going to do that, man. I rarely do anyway. And so as we veer back into story, I think I've kind of given my overall thoughts enough. The story, yeah. So it starts out with inciting incident in the 90s where you see a character essentially have happened to them, but in a more expanded sort of fashion, what happens to the woman in the short film. So something happens near the pool, there's a disappearance, and then we fast forward to present day, and that's where Wyatt Russell, son of Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, brother of the Kate Hudson. But yeah, incredibly talented acting family. Wyatt is great in this, and so, as I said, he is a now disabled former baseball player who dreams of somehow conquering his MS enough to get back out there on the mound, and it doesn't it doesn't seem feasible. But they move into this house and they find this old pool, and that's where inciting incident had happened at the beginning of the movie. And so he's like, yeah, I love that this place has a pool, let's fix it up. And they find out that the pool actually has like fresh, like real underground water going into it. Could that potentially tie in with why there's nastiness going on in this particular pool? Perhaps. And yet they fix it up, and there is a rejuvenative aspect to him as he starts working out in this pool. And so he's working out in it, and the MS starts to subside, and he's improving. And the doctors gave him this horribly dire prognosis early on, and he's improving. And yet the rest of the family are encountering the same instances of like just weird, creepy shizzle going down, like we see with the woman at the beginning of the short film, where like you're in the pool and you think you're seeing people, up above, and there's another scene with the kid where, in like the drain on the side of the pool, like he hears a voice in there, and it's like kind of kids in the drain sort of thing, and it's really creepy in that regard. And so yeah, this film does interesting things before yeah, the third act and characters being taken over, and yet sacrifices and all the, but I'm only hinting at things, but it just really just becomes I'm gonna grab from all kinds of different things that we've seen before and try to give some sort of cohesive conclusion to all of the interesting framework that I had laid out previously. And yeah, I guess you can obviously tell the third act of this film, without spoiling things, did not work for me at all. And it echoes one of my favorite King endings, not a movie, but a book in particular, with what a character does. And I was just like, oh, you blatantly basically ripped this off. For shame, for shame. I've already hit on the acting a lot. I thought the family was great. They're one of the most redeeming qualities of this. There is an interesting supporting cast, most notably the woman who is selling them the real estate. Actually, the real estate agent who is selling them the home. She is schmucky and funny in all of her scenes, where she's bringing this rum cake at one particular point, and even when she's initially trying to sell them the home and talking about, yeah, use some of that baseball money. So yeah, there's funny bits like that. The pool guy, he only has one scene. He is also a standout. He is a character and a half, man. He is pretty amusing. So yeah, I mean, acting is not. There's also when where Carrie Condon's character in the third act is trying to track down the previous owner of the home, the person who might know, the trope we've seen in dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of horror movies of, I have to find the people who used to live in the house, or the people who first encountered the monster, or whatever. Yeah, the one scene with that woman is excellent and very well acted as well. So acting is not the problem in this, man. And also from a filmmaking standpoint, like, you can tell Bryce, and his cinematographer did a great job with shot selection, most notably with a lot of the underwater bits where characters are swimming down there, but also when they are peering up from under the water and looking up at figures that are on the dry surface above and stuff. And also there are bits where being dragged down into this almost like underworld water, sort of like purgatory of sorts, which are interestingly done as well, very well lit and cool in that regard. So I mean, this is not bad from a filmmaking standpoint either, or from an acting standpoint, in my estimation. It pushes the boundaries of the PG-13 horror well enough. I will admit though, there's one image that is circling around in all the promotional material of this like wet, drenched, like girl creature looking thing. That was cool enough. There's another one, though, that is very reminiscent in its big, bloated grotesqueness of a few other things I've seen before, and those effects look bad, man. So not every victim, I guess, without spoiling things in a major fashion, of this pool in their other state looks quite as good as the one that they're using in the promotional material. So you can tell why they picked that one as opposed to some of the others. So, music selections are also a little weird in this. You've got Judas Priest at one point, which I laughed as the parents and the kids are playing around in the pool and we're rocking some Priest. I'm like, cool, I'm into it, but it's kind of an odd selection, so I don't know, man. And then the rest of it, you've got your weird modern mumblecore sort of stuff that, and then pop and, garbled vocals and stuff that I would imagine in kids these days. And I'm the old man screaming at the cloud when it comes to a lot of modern music, if it's not guitar driven or anything metallic or whatever. But so yeah, guys, nothing really supremely memorable as far as like music. Score, on the other hand, I did quite like. But the use of actual like current songs and even the head scratching aspect of some of the older songs that they used, not really. I don't know. It just didn't feel like it gelled and felt as cohesive. So I guess in final thoughts here to wrap things up, because we have a live stream that we need to start here pretty soon. This was a missed opportunity in my estimation. I don't know how it's performing at the box office because I'm recording this on Sunday. It's been out since Thursday. I don't know if it's going to top the box office. It's not really like there's a lot of similar programming out there right now. I'm not anticipating this to be like a runaway hit like Megan was last year, but I think based on the same curiosity that I had, the fact that it's Blumhouse, the fact that it's one of the only things like this in theaters right now, and the fact that it was definitely made on a low budget, and yet they did a lot with the low budget, I must admit. This could make some money, but I definitely don't really see it as being something like Megan where it's going to have that buzz and it become like a TikTok sensation, or really have a lot of people recommending to friends that you need to go out and see this. So yeah, missed opportunity, because 2/3 of this film were very interesting and just kind of set themselves apart. You know, they were, you know, swimming through their own waters, so to speak, if I'm going to make some dumb analogy about it. But yeah, it was just like jumping back into the same pool, and an overcrowded one, albeit at that, for the third act. And so, everybody, that is my thoughts on Night Swim, the newest film, PG-13, Blumhouse horror. Make that money, Jason, make that money. And also James Wan's Atomic Monster co-producing this. And so, grande gracias, I've been Jaime Fuego. I'm on all social media sectors, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, also on TikToks, where I do Rapido Fuego reviews, little shorts, not horror related, but obviously here on the Horror Show channel from Cecil, myself, Robert, the girls, you know, we greatly thank you for checking out this video. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. You guys know the drill. So since we have a bunch of trailers to react to, I've been Fuego, y'all have been Rat Status, and until next time, Fright fans, remember, stay scared.